Senior Report thanks Edmund Besch of Bristol Burgess Insurance Agency, 65 East Main Street, Westfield, for his generous grant to provide news to seniors. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Funding for Senior Report is provided in part by a grant from Andrew Goodell, Assemblyman for the 150th District of the New York State Assembly. Dave Cass and Rick Newell provide funding on behalf of the Lakeview Hotel and Restaurant at the Docks, located on Water Street near the lake in Mayville. Senior Report with Reed Powers thanks Westfield's Schultz Chevy for a generous grant to inform seniors of important news. Over 50 years of service to Westfield by Chevrolet, Schultz Chevy across from the school. The physicians of Jamestown Primary Care are happy to sponsor the Senior Report. From the Access Channel 5 television studio in Mayville, it's Senior Report with Reed Powers. Senior Report is broadcast live throughout northern Chautauqua County on Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. each week. Call in and share a thought, make a comment, ask a question, or simply wish someone a happy birthday on Chautauqua County's only live call-in senior program. Since 1995, Reed has been bringing viewers hundreds of interesting guests, informing the community on a variety of subjects. Here's the host of the show, Reed Powers.
And good morning. What a beautiful day we have beaming down the sun here in Chautauqua County. Another day in the 70s. So we had, it hit almost 80 a couple of days. And can you believe this weather? Now suddenly spring has sprung. And the flowers are incredibly profuse. The daffodils are smiling little rays of sun in the grass and all those lovely things. And the poppies are popping, and it's incredible. What a time! I see woodchucks running around now, rabbits all over the place. The world is good in Chautauqua. In Chautauqua County, as the French stated when they passed through here, this is the Garden of Eden. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a good show. Our guest is here with us, Cathy Young. Cathy Young is the venerable member of our Senate, and by far the most important one we've ever had, because she has great leadership positions, and she also has granted more money to the Chautauqua County than any other state senator we've ever had, considering the time she's been in office. So I'll have a chance to talk to our state senator, Cathy Young, and of course you can call in anytime and ask her a question. That's one of the wonderful things about live television, is that she's here in person. 753-5225, or if you can't remember all that, 753-JACK. And she'll be happy to answer your questions. She gives up her Saturday morning to be here with you, and it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Don't miss it. We have all kinds of stuff going on around us, of course. First of all, I want to say hello, a shout out to two beautiful people here in Mayville, New York. Janet Taylor, who is Devin Taylor's mom, and she's ill at this time. She needs a little care. And Debbie Marcella, who takes care of her and gives her wonderful care and around the clock almost. And Devin Taylor was one of the founders of Senior Report and the television channel Access 5. So Devin, God bless you, and God bless Janet, who gave you and the world Devin Taylor. And Debbie Marcella taking care of it. I wanted to also suggest that we have a lot of things to talk about. This is turkey season, after all. Yeah, there's a second season in the spring. And you're allowed to go out and catch shoot one turkey, I believe. It's got to be a tom. No, not necessarily a tom. One of the strange things about turkeys, all the tom turkeys, the males, have a beard. But some of the females do too. So how do you tell? So it's not a tom turkey season, it's a bearded turkey season. In other words, if you happen to see a female with a beard, you can shoot it, because how can you tell, you know? So at any rate, I hope he gets turkey and all those wonderful things going on. I also, it's just such wonderful weather here. You get out and bike and do some, get to the beach, you know, in Barcelona. Thank you, town of Westfield. And Martha, who runs the shop over there, Martha Bills, they clean up when there's a nice beach right at Barcelona, just to the right of the harbor, the Barcelona harbor, that beautiful pier we have, the Reed Pier, our Congressman Reed. And we have a new Congressman Reed, how about that? The old Congressman Reed, who was the head of the Ways and Means Committee, very, very important. Everything that goes through Congress goes through him. He can red pencil anything out or blue pencil it in and say, he controls it. Gave us millions and put up a beautiful pier in Westfield. And it's still today one of the hot spots of the county. A lot of fishing goes out of there, believe me. They have 3 great big sections there that are devoted to ramps, and it's wonderful. Okay, enough of that. Fishing is good. You're allowed to keep 1 bass now. And it's got to be bigger than small. I don't know what the size limit is on it. It's got to be at least 16 inches or something like that. Big. Don't take that from me, incidentally, because I have no idea. I've been watching. The fishing and hunting and fishing laws in New York State have become so complicated, they require a book, and you have to be a lawyer to understand it. For every different creek, different lake, what are the different rules for different fish and the same fish and the same ducks, and it's hard. You just can't. I have to ask a friend who fishes. I say, what size bass can I keep, and when is the season? I have no idea. In Lake Erie. And then there's the Pennsylvania line, which really complicates things, because as soon as you cross from Westfield, you go down a little ways to northeast, boom, you've got a whole new set of laws, all equally complicated and difficult. 25 perch instead of 50 perch limit, and it goes on and on and on. If you're a hunter and a fisherman, God bless you, you've got to be an attorney at least. Got a great show coming up with Cathy Young, and I wanted to mention we got some things coming into town here. There's going to be an annual, big deal. It's a Rotary auction coming up next Saturday, May 11th, and it starts at 5 to 7 p.m. And believe me, it's a deal. They charge a small fee for your dinner. You have a nice dinner there, lots of food, good stuff, and the guy who runs the Rotary is on the line right now, and his name is Doc. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Reed. How are you?
I'm terrific. I'll tell you something. It's nice to hear from John Hamels. Where are you now? You're all somewhere into Germany or Texas or something?
Oh, no. I'm up here in beautiful Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls.
And we're at a Rotary Assembly where we have, like clubs and organizations have conferences from time to time.
Uh-huh.
And I stepped out before the next meeting so I could call in and say good morning to everyone. And
well, I'm glad you did, and thank you for thinking of us. What's the weather like in Buffalo? It's down here. It's going to be in the 70s or 80s. Who knows?
Pretty much the same thing. Yeah. And all the trees are in bloom. It's just gorgeous.
Uh-huh. I've heard of Buffalo. It's not. It's down quite a ways from here, but it's different than Westfield and Mayville and our little townships here, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I think it's the second biggest city in the state of New York, as a matter of fact.
Second or third, I think. Yeah.
Second city. It's the Queen City, rather than the King City, which is New York City, of course.
So is Cathy there?
Cathy's right here. We could put her on the camera if you don't believe me.
Well, I can't see.
Oh, well, hell, what's the matter? Haven't they got cable down there in Buffalo yet?
I'm just on the phone. That's all. Good morning, Cathy.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Great way to start the day.
She's ready to roll.
That's right.
All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you guys too long, but I do want to promote the upcoming Rotary auction.
Right, I just promoted it, and go ahead, promote it again.
Well, I just want to remind everybody that it's on May 11th, next Saturday, from 5 to 9. And we've got really a great lineup of donations this year. One especially is from Bella Day Salon and Salon and Day Spa, over in Northeast. It's a package for 2 people, an hour's massage, a pedicure, a manicure, facial. We threw in a voucher for some money towards a dinner at the Bark Grill and a bottle of wine. And then we've got all kinds of things. We got belt packages and donations of homemade products, and there's a overnight, 2 nights at the Sheridan in a show package. It just goes on and on and on.
John, what attracted me was the fact not that you have a wonderful super chicken barbecue for your ticket, but on top of that, there's not only a beer voucher for the Bark Grill, there's a actual live beer at the auction, isn't it?
Well, where can you go for $10?
And drink all the beer you can hold.
Drink all the beer you can hold, or soft drink. You get a barbecue dinner from Civetta's, and you have a chance to win $500. And that's before you even raise your card to bid on the auction item.
And many of those things go for next to nothing. You can't beat it. John, I will, of course, I couldn't miss it. For $10, I can't. That's what a barbecue dinner costs to start with. But I could drink $20 worth of beer.
Well, come ahead. It's at Easton Hall this year, rather than where it was been before. So it's a great venue, and we're really looking forward to anyone to come. And if people say they're not sure, you can buy tickets at the door as well. If they want tickets, they can call Harry Barton, and the number's on the poster. They can call me over.
Or any Rotary member.
Or any Rotary member.
Including Ann Weidman. God bless her.
Oh, she's been busy. She's got a lot of donations in there's champagne glasses, there's pottery, there's just all kinds of stuff. A lot of Rotarians have services they put into the thing.
Well, thank you.
And this money goes back into the community, so that's what's the best thing about it all.
That's the best part of it. Okay, thanks a lot, John. You have fun down there in the beautiful, historic Buffalo, New York, okay?
All right, and we'll see you next week, Reed.
All right, we'll look forward to it.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Next week I'll be eating leeks. I usually eat them when you're here, if you remember.
Yes, I do remember.
But I figured, well, I'll give you a break this year.
I brought my clothespin for my nose. I guess I don't need it today.
You don't need it today. Cathy Young, she'll be on in just a second. I've got a public service announcement for you, and then we'll be rolling along. This is for you. Better do some senior stuff, too. We got some beautiful senior stuff.
Hi.
Hard to learn that there was no cure. So we sought hospice care. The hospice people, they really helped. They made her feel comfortable. And they helped me and the girls, especially the girls. They're helping us get through this loss. Now, hospice people, they're good people. They're really good people.
They're good people, and whenever I have hospice on the air, they make sure they always emphasize the fact they're there to help you and to do what you need and give you what you want in terms of health services. So I'll lean over and I say, "Well, off me. I want to die, and that's my need and what I'm asking you to do for me." He always says, "No, we can't do that. We don't do that." I said, "You mean I got to go all the way to Colorado?" Cathy Young doesn't believe this. Wait until we talk about the new rape law. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that.
Sure.
It's pretty sensitive.
It is sensitive.
Yeah, and it's bringing up a lot of news. I mean, it's all over the country now. Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to mention a couple of things here. We have some senior news, and I'll get this in. They're telling me I'm running out of time. They're going to cut me off with the news anyway. But I wanted to say the Great Belt seniors are going on a wonderful trip to the called the 4-day Pennsylvania Rail Adventure. Call Sirio 672-5274 if you want to have a 4-day rail adventure and a lot of fun with other seniors, and it's cheap as dirt, incidentally. They have all kinds of stuff over there. They have knitting, crocheting, dance, running, exercise. You can sit in your chair and do exercises. It's incredibly good. Hello, Irene Christopher, incidentally. The Mayville seniors, I just want to mention something about them here. They are the people that are our guests right now, or I should say our hosts right now. We're their guests. And They're talking about gun laws over there. Mr. Holder, the undersheriff, is talking about what's going on in terms of the gun control, and I'm sure Cathy might want to say something about that. We talked about that before, too, a little bit, didn't we?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. We knew it was coming down. That sneaky midnight vote, which actually took place in the morning. Hello, Jack Abrams over there. He does the job, and we have a lot of other stuff here. They say, if you don't stop doing news, we're just going to cut you off the air and put Cathy on, with or without you. Dunkirk seniors are going to a trip on May 23rd. It's a casino trip, and it's all, you know, they give you it costs $25 for the bus usually, and the whole trip. But they give you $25 in chips. And they give you $5 for your lunch, so you break even. You can't go wrong, unless you start to gamble. If you start to gamble, make sure you have a cheap shirt, because you're going to lose it. Gala Sunday coming up for the seniors. April, that's already passed. I can't mention that. Oh, well, okay, it'll be held. There'll be another one on Sunday, May the 19th. Gala Sundays are wonderful. They have cards, they have lunch, they have mashed potatoes and gravy and roast beef and homemade desserts and pies and everything. And my time is up. Here's your public service announcement already been done, so we're ready to roll. We have with us Cathy Young. She's our senator, state senator, and she gives up her Saturday mornings to come up here often and early. And right after I want to thank you, incidentally, for helping us out here in many ways, especially in funding. And right after you is Andy Goodell now. You think he'll ever do what you did? You went from the legislature right into the Senate. Whoosh, right?
Well, I was in the Assembly, elected
the Assembly, and then right into the Senate when Pat died. And what a beautiful lady she was.
Oh my gosh, was she ever.
Yeah,
One of a kind.
She was just terrific.
Yeah. Well, I felt very fortunate because I worked with her for 6 years.
I knew you had.
And so that was a great training for me because Pat was so focused on her district constituent service, being in touch with people, and I try to emulate that.
Yeah, she was a tough one to do an interview with, though, because I'd start to say, Reed, this is my show. She'd take the mic and take it right out of my hand and say, you pipe down. And she gave us a couple of lawnmowers for the weeds out in Lake Erie, which are just Lake Chautauqua. There are plenty in Lake Erie, too, but they're nowhere near as offensive as the ones in Lake Chautauqua. Lake Chautauqua goes from the bottom to the top, or top to the bottom, whatever it is. The weeds are all there.
Yeah, the problem with Chautauqua Lake is that it's a very shallow lake, so you do have to make a huge effort to control the weeds, and if you don't, they can get out of control. So it's important that they focus on all kinds of different methods to control the weeds, and we were able to get $100,000 this past year to help with weed control, and that'll help with this upcoming season, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, well, apparently the only answer anybody has, or ever will have, is just mowing them like a lawn, and they grow right back. And of course, you have the clippings. They float all over the lake and come out on the shore, gather minnows and smell, and but there's nothing else you can do. They say, well, we could poison them. Don't dream about that. Not with the environmental situation today. We could. They suggest we could go pull them out one by one, drain the lake. All kinds of crazy thoughts. The only thing they've come up with is you mow them.
Well, I think it's a two-pronged approach, so that what you have to do is mow the lawn, basically, and mow the lake, but at the same time focus on reducing nutrients that go into the lake that cause the weeds to grow even faster. So it's kind of a short-term and a long-term approach, and I think that people are very focused on accomplishing both, which I think is good because, as you know, Chautauqua Lake and Lake Erie are very important to our economy locally.
That's right.
They draw so many people here to beautiful Chautauqua County. We have to make sure that we protect our assets so that we can have the economy continue to grow.
Sure. And Lake Erie and Lake Chautauqua are connected because when you get something bad in Lake Erie, it gets into Chautauqua or vice versa. They had the mussel.
The zebra mussel.
Zebra mussels in Lake Erie. And they were frantically trying to prevent them from getting to Lake Chautauqua. So they said, well, fishermen, here's what you have to do. There's no problem. When you pull your boat out of Lake Erie, take some Clorox and mix it with a gallon of water and then wash down the entire boat, making sure you remove all the bilge water. And also you've got to do it on the outside of the boat very carefully. And then you have to let it dry, and it's a good idea to do it again a second time. But And then you can take it and ship it over and put it in the water in Lake Chautauqua. You know how many fishermen right out of the lake into Lake Chautauqua, and
I know.
guess what they have in Lake Chautauqua immediately?
I know, and we've had quite a problem with invasive species, invasive plants and animals, and those are great examples of that. So through the Environmental Protection Fund, in this last round for the state budget, we were able to allocate more money to control invasive species because New York State has 3,300 lakes. I don't know if you know that, Reed, but
Well, I think the highest one is Lake Chautauqua, isn't it?
I think it may be.
I believe it is.
I think it is. But we have lots of lakes in New York State, and so it's very important that we protect our natural resources. And so I'm glad that through the state budget we're able to continue to focus on controlling invasive species, because if you go around the state, whether it's Chautauqua Lake, Lake Erie, Lake George, for example, Finger Lakes, they all have issues with either weeds or invasive animals, and so we need to pay attention to those things.
Yeah, we had many years back, we had a major invasion of lamprey eels, and they did all kinds of things, put up electric controls in the lakes, and there's still lamprey eels around, but I don't know, they don't seem to be as bad as they thought they would be. They haven't killed everything.
No, so I think that, that's good, but you have to, there's the emerald ash borer now, they're attacking the ash trees. I mean, there are a lot of concerns that we have to pay attention to.
Sure. Well, one of the things about the Lake Erie is one of my friends who is an environmentalist told me it takes fish 5 years to recognize a new species as edible. And so now they had some sort of a little eel-like fish. I forget what the name was. Another invasive species going like crazy on Lake Erie. But suddenly the pike started eating them about 5 years later.
And that's a good thing.
And they really cut them back. Well, let me say this, Cathy. You're down there in the venerable halls of the state senate. What's new down there? Anything at all? There is a new rape law. I wanted to mention that. And I have to be somewhat discreet about it.
Right.
But it is probably a very important law.
It is a very important law. And actually, this was uncovered by prosecutors because of a terrible case that happened in New York City. And Lydia Cuomo was a very young woman, and she had just graduated from college, and she had her first teaching job. And so it was in New York City. She was on her way to meet the principal of the school, and early in the morning, and she was dragged into an alleyway and viciously attacked in several ways. There were several sex crimes that were committed against her. But the prosecutors, the District Attorneys Association, has explained to me there was actually a hole in the law, a loophole in the law, in that contact.
No penetration.
Right. And so there was a hung jury on that part of the criminal count. And so this young woman started this push. And actually, by changing the rape law, we put it up to speed with the other sexual assault laws. So it just unifies, makes everything uniform. But the prosecutors tell me, Reed, that they are particularly happy about this change in the law because what it does, it especially helps child rape victims. Because child rape victims have a very difficult time with the whole concept of penetration, explaining that, and they can explain touch or contact, which is basically what we're changing in the law, and that'll help convict a lot of people who are preying on young children.
So the new law, though, does say that you can go to jail, I guess, what is it, 8 years or something?
Well, what we're concerned about, there was an alternate proposal that's currently in the Assembly, and it basically merges all the sexual assault laws under one statute. If you do that, then it jeopardizes consecutive sentencing, so that if a person has multiple counts and multiple acts that they commit, right now you can have consecutive sentencing. Unfortunately, this Assembly bill merges everything, and the prosecutors tell me that would jeopardize consecutive sentencing, so that a sexual predator, violent sexual predator, may get a very light sentence, which isn't what we want. We want to make sure that we get justice and keep them off the street. Exactly.
Well, I talked to a friend of mine who has a legal background, and he says this law looks pretty good on paper, but it does create a problem, an issue. And that is, since no penetration is required now, you could still be sent down the river for rape, even though you haven't put it into anything, if you know what I mean.
But it's contact, so it's, you know,
yeah.
it's pretty clear.
But how
that-
does one prove this? You know, one of the proofs, defenses, as he pointed out, for rape is any woman, for us to say, he raped me, and she'd get even with you. And there are thousands of cases of that where people spend a lot of time in
Yeah.
jail. The one protection he had in defense was there's lacerations, if you know what I mean. There's various signs of forcible physical penetration. There is semen all over the place. They can actually prove that if there's none of this there, that there's no case for rape. So what's a guy do now when a woman points out, you raped me?
Well, there's always physical evidence, and that's part of the proof. Right now, if we put this definition in for rape, it actually brings it in line which has existed for sodomy. And so contact is the standard for sodomy. So that already exists in the law. And so this just brings everything to be uniform. But no, you don't want somebody convicted if they're innocent, obviously, and that's why you go through the court procedures.
That's what the attorney said.
But you would have to have proof in order to be able to prove it. And the district attorneys in the state are very well versed in these types of cases, and they're experts at this. And so if the evidence doesn't support it, then there wouldn't be a conviction, you know.
So it becomes, it's a pretty gnarly problem now. One of my friends said they're just going to laugh it out of court if they bring a guy in and say, well, there's no evidence whatsoever, there's no semen, there's no violence showing or anything, but she says he raped her.
Right, and when you turn into this, she said it doesn't work, so that's why they do a thorough investigation.
Right.
And
you check her best friend who says, oh, I saw it.
Well, you know, it's these sex crimes are very serious.
I know that, and unfortunately, it's I don't know that laws have much to do with it. I think these people are crazy.
Well, unfortunately, you do see a lot of people out there who are very violent, and we see these sex crimes. And one of the disturbing things is that sexual predators usually repeat their behavior, and that's why you need the longer sentences so that you can protect people. One of the things that we have in Chautauqua County that I am just thrilled that we have as an asset now is a Child Advocacy Center, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, Reed.
I'm not terribly, I've seen it, of course, but I mean, in the papers.
David Foley, our district attorney, and several people got together a few years ago. There was state funding to establish child advocacy centers, and previous to that time, a child who was assaulted might have to go to the hospital, have to go to the police station, be taken all over to these scary places when an incident occurred. At the Child Advocacy Center, it's a home-like atmosphere. It's very kid-friendly. It has stuffed animals and books. But they bring together a team of counselors, medical professionals, law enforcement, people who specialize in treating children who have been victimized. And they bring the child there. And it's a much less traumatic situation for the child. And it allows the district attorney to be able to focus on getting convictions. And it's disturbing, actually, that we have so many cases of child abuse in Chautauqua County, but it's actually all across, unfortunately, the country in New York State.
It's pretty well covered up, a lot of it.
Exactly, and so at least this Child Advocacy Center is focused on treating the child, helping the child, and I can't imagine, for example, being a little 7-year-old and being victimized and then having to go to the police station.
Or the hospital for the rape kit.
Exactly.
Which they have to do. I mean,
they have to do, but they can do this at the Child Advocacy Center now. And it's just a wonderful program. Sometimes they do fundraisers, and if you see that, I would encourage you to consider giving, because you're really helping a little child, so many little children.
Is the funding still in place, or is that expired?
No, it is. It's in place, and we had to work very hard in the state budget this year because the governor did not fund the child advocacy centers to the level that they should have been in his original proposal. So we worked very hard to get the funding restored, and I'm very pleased that we have, because it's just a very, very important program.
Well, one of the troubling aspects of the governor's new budget for a lot of people is that we were talking about gun control and gun massacres and so forth, and Basically, they're carried out by lunatics, people who are mentally off, who are recognized. But there's just no funding to take care of them. There is very little funding for mental health. Well, he cut a huge amount out of the mental health budget.
Well,
and here he is passing this new law, which is the most severe in the country for gun control, leaving open the fact that most of the problem is mental health, and then he cuts the mental health budget. What happened there?
Well, the problem is mental health, and when this whole debate started after Newtown, and of course, our hearts were broken by what happened in Newtown.
It was a horrible nightmare.
Exactly, but as you point out, Reed, all of these major incidents that we've seen across the country, whether it was the Batman shooting in the theater, whether it was Virginia Tech, whether it was Gabby Gifford's case.
Or Boston, where they use bombs.
Right.
Or the Oklahoma, where you use bombs, and there are all kinds of ways of killing. Some crazy ran around knifing people. I mean, there's...
Right, but in most of these cases, I don't think necessarily the Boston Marathon bombing, but a lot of the mass shootings, it's been by someone who has some type of serious mental illness. And we saw that at Newtown. This Adam Lanza character seems to have had a lot of warning signals, was not getting treated. And so when the whole debate started in the beginning of session in January of this year regarding guns,
In New York,
I pushed very hard to upgrade Kendra's Law. And I think you know what Kendra's Law is, or you may know, because
I've heard
it
of it,
has a
yeah.
local connection. And in 1999, Kendra Webdale, who grew up in Fredonia, and her parents still live there. They're Pat and Ralph Webdale, wonderful people. But in 1999, Kendra was living in New York City as a professional. She was waiting on a subway platform, and a deranged man came up behind her, Andrew Goldstein, and he pushed her in front of the subway train and murdered her. And right after he did it, he walked over to the side and he said, "Someone take me to the hospital. I'm psychotic." And so he knew he was sick, and he did this terrible act. He was arrested, convicted. He actually was a schizophrenic. He was off his medications, which is a common theme where people may have gotten treatment or they're just falling through the cracks, but they're not getting the treatment that they need currently when they do these terrible acts. And so Kendra's family decided that they had to do something so that other people would not be victimized. And what they did, they started to push for Kendra's Law in New York State. Kendra's Law helps people who are severely mentally ill, who are a danger to themselves or to others, get the treatment that they need if they're going to be out in the community. And so because of the Webdale's advocacy, Kendra's Law was passed in 2000. I remember when Governor Pataki signed it. I was in the Assembly at the time. Pat McGee was in the Senate. And Pat worked very hard to get Kendra's Law put into place. But unfortunately in the Assembly sometimes, with the New York City control that they have downstate, they weaken some of these laws. So Kendra's Law was put into place, but it wasn't as effective as it should have been. And so I've been pushing very hard over the years to strengthen Kendra's Law, to close loopholes, so that it's more effective and gets people the help that they need, because that's really the bottom line. If somebody is a danger to themselves or to others, they should get the treatment that they need. And we saw it on Christmas Eve this year when William Spangler in Webster, New York, attacked those first responders. And I know you've been very active over the
Firefighters, yeah.
yeah. And both the people who were killed also, for example, Mike Cipriani was also a police officer, but in his spare time he was a volunteer firefighter. And it was just a terrible situation because William Spangler, the person who committed the murders, murdered the two volunteer firefighters who responded to a call on Christmas Eve in Webster, actually had been convicted and spent time in state prison because many years ago he murdered his own 92-year-old grandmother with a claw hammer, beat her to death, but it was only, for some reason, the district attorney in Monroe County at the time, Howard Rellin, only went after a manslaughter charge.
Which is nothing. I mean,
Right.
He can walk in weeks, actually, in
Well,
some cases.
he did spend 18 years in state prison, but what happened during that time was William Spangler spent time in a special unit for the mentally ill. And so the state knew that he was mentally ill, but when they released him into the community without any kind of follow-up services
No
for his
supervision.
mental illness, no supervision, nothing. And he lived with his mother and his sister. He didn't get along with his sister. He loved his mother. And he said, he told people before the incident occurred that as soon as his mother died, he was going to kill his sister. And he did. That night when he set the fire, he had killed his sister. He attacked the first responders. And it shows he's a classic case of someone who had a severe mental illness. People knew about it, but nobody did anything about it.
And I remember in many cases they will say, we went to this, we went to the law, we went to the schools, we indicated he's crazy as a mouse, and in the meantime, nobody did anything. And again, back to the question, why or how did Cuomo cut back on mental health services in this scenario?
Right. Well, we need to do a better job with mental health, there's no question.
Yeah.
The governor actually cut Medicaid services for the developmentally disabled. So those are people with mental retardation, they have developmental
Down
issues.
syndrome,
Right,
so forth.
exactly. And we were very concerned in the legislature, and so we worked very hard to restore some of the money. See, the governor cut $120 million out of developmental disability services, but basically that was a double whammy because the state gets matching funds from the federal government. So it's actually a $240 million cut.
And how serious that is, because actually this is money that comes in the state, right?
Exactly, but the problem is that the feds are cutting back on the Medicaid funding, and so but we wanted to restore all the funding. We could not get the governor to agree to that during the budget process, but we did restore $30 million, which is actually a $60 million restoration. And then we put together a task force. We insisted with the governor, we put together a task force, and we were able to figure out a way to find the reductions but not affect direct individual services to people with disabilities, so that we mitigated the cut as much as we possibly could. But I felt very strongly that there should have been no cuts, because these are vital services that are provided to people with disabilities. It's helped them become more independent. It's helped them have an improved quality of life. And in many cases, if these particular individuals did not get the services that they have, I'm not sure where they would go. They wouldn't have anywhere to live, no one to take care of them. So it's a very, very serious issue. And in the legislature, we're continuing to try to work to find ways to mitigate those particular cuts.
Okay, well, a very serious nature is the fact that seniors, and we have a lot of people watching this show in Chautauqua County. We blanket the county now. They're being thrown under the bus. Medicare is a senior program for the most part, and they're cutting $2 trillion out of it. If you can believe that amount of money. Secondly, Medicaid, which is half goes to seniors in need. These are needy people who are basically bankrupt. Half of that goes to seniors. They're cutting $1 trillion out of that. And they're now going to revise the Social Security formula for inflation, which already has been laughable. The last 5 years they've given them like 2 or 3% or something, which is just laughable. And the cost of gas and so forth, and meats and vegetables and everything. So seniors are starving, and the ARP even is finally noticed this and said, we got to do something about nutritious food. Seniors have to choose between pills and nutritious food now, and it's getting bad. They're going to cut back even further. Right now, Social Security pays 47 cents on a dollar in the last 10 years. That's the difference. Your basket only has what you could have gotten for 47 cents for a dollar today. So you've lost half your Social Security through inflation, and now they're going to revise that and cut it back even further. A new trick. It'll cost the average senior $1,000 a year, and we have 2 callers. You want to take a call?
Sure, but before we do that, I do
Yeah.
want to point out that that's why those are obviously federal cuts, not state cuts where I serve. But during the budget this year, we made sure that the EPIC program, the Elderly Pharmaceutical Insurance Coverage Program, received full funding. That was crucial because, as you point out, sometimes people have to choose between getting their prescription medications and being able to afford to pay other bills. get your groceries and
gets-
so on.
gets-
And so the EPIC program has been a fantastic
We'll have to
state
talk
program.
about that a little bit too. It's
I would love
important
to.
seniors. Good morning, caller. Thank you for being so patient. You have a-
Hello?
Hello,
Good
you're
morning.
on. You're on the air.
Yeah. I have two questions for Cathy. The first one is,
Can't think of it.
she had an article in the Observer about the NRG the NRG
Oh, yes.
plant in Dunkirk, and was urging people to write to Cuomo and Schumer. I was hoping maybe she could elaborate on that, and also, how about passing a law to mandate recycling for all residents? There's many times we go up and down streets and see tons and tons of bags of garbage, and people just don't recycle. But maybe if it was mandated, there might be less waste hauled to the transfer station. So if Cathy could address those, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the call.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. First of all, I'll start with the recycling. Actually, a lot of local governments pass local laws, and I think that the easiest thing to do would be if your local community does not have a recycling program. This is where citizen involvement really is key, where you can go to your local officials and ask them to set up a local recycling program. I think that would be very beneficial. Sometimes it's difficult because we're not a one-size-fits-all state, and each community is different. Some, for example, are more rural, and some are more suburban, and some are more urban. And so it's difficult to come up with policies that fit every community.
Especially when you have different recyclers. Now,
Right.
in certain areas, I'll mention them by name, Casella says, look, it's so much hassle separating the non-recyclable stuff that gets tossed into the recyclable. Just throw everything into one big bin, and we have separation facilities at our plant. They have a big fan, blows all the paper and cardboard away, for one thing. They've got magnets to pick up any metal, any iron metal, and then they save the other things. It's all done automatically, and they say it actually saves us time and money and you, so just dump it all together, please. Stop breaking it up. And when I was a kid, I used to my kids couldn't believe me. We had an old spit. We'd drive it into a bottle and knock the bottom out, and the bottle would collapse, and we'd put that in our glass bag. We had a can bag, an aluminum bag, and the kids learned, even though they took it and all dumped it together, I still put it out in terms of separate recyclable amounts. So I don't know, Cathy. What do you tell people?
Well, recycling is great, and I
Yeah.
think that local communities should do everything that they can to get into recycling programs, but tailor make it so
Yeah.
that it fits a particular
Well,
community.
at least get your recycler recycling. And,
Exactly.
apparently, I think Casella does that very well.
Yep, it depends. So, but that's a great point that you brought forward. And then the second issue has to do with NRG. We've been working very hard to repower the NRG plant, as people in the area know. It's a coal plant. It's done several upgrades over the years to become a cleaner coal plant. But now the plan is, we hope, for it to repower into a natural gas facility, which would greatly reduce emissions.
Well,
The difference is
The big
phenomenal.
problem, according to the pundits, is not so much the energy, it's getting it to where they can use it. It's cheaper to bring in energy from Canada and run it down to New York right now, and they tell me that they need new power lines to take it down to New York where they can use it, but there's a bill, I think it's in the Senate, to bypass the Dunkirk facility completely with some new power lines.
Well, there is a competing project
Yeah.
that would actually hit the ratepayers, because if we close NRG and just bypass
Yeah.
it, what would happen is that the transmission system would have to be upgraded, and as a result, the ratepayers, the consumers, would have to pay $200 million worth
Lots
of
and
that
lots of money, yeah.
upgrade. So NRG just makes so much sense to repower that, because number one, we keep our ability to produce our own power, our own energy in Western New York. And if we're ever going to continue to work on regrowing our economy, we need to have that ability to produce our energy. So that's key. It's also key to the entire county. So you may
They'll
not
bankrupt
live.
us. They pay so much tax.
Exactly. So it affects every single taxpayer in Chautauqua County, because NRG is the largest taxpayer in the entire county. And if you lose that plant, then it has a very negative impact.
And Dunkirk will completely disappear.
Absolutely. About 40% of the city's budget is dependent on the NRG revenues that come in through the pilot payment, and the school system would be totally
Very,
destroyed
very
also.
important.
Very, very significant problem, but we've been working in a very positive way to try to address it, and NRG has come up with a plan to repower the plant, would create 500 construction jobs, would keep that plant in our community, would maintain jobs down the road. It's just such a positive endeavor, but right now it's going through a review process through the Public Service Commission, and there is the competing project, and that's why we're asking people to write to Governor Cuomo and to write to Gary Brown, who is in charge of the Public Service Commission, to say, hey, we need this NRG repowering project. And we've had a great response from the community because we had a petition drive, over 4,000 people signed it, which was phenomenal. We sent those on to the governor. And during the budget process, I was able to get some language in the budget that says during the review of the NRG plant, they have to look at several factors such as the impact on the community, the impact on the economy, the impact on the environment, and the NRG project has.
So it's a very
has it all.
complex problem, more complex
Yes.
than looks. We've got a couple of calls. We want to take one?
Sure.
Good morning,
absolutely.
caller. Thank you for waiting so patiently.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning, Reed. Cathy,
morning.
it's wonderful to see you on the show. This is Linda Spalding.
Hi, Linda. How are you? I just saw her recently.
We
Oh,
just
yeah.
saw each other. Cathy, I want to thank you for the tremendous support and help you give to our senior employment program, for our computer training program. The certificates that you gave us to distribute to our graduates are absolutely beautiful. And everyone was so appreciative of everything that you've done. And you've helped not only our senior employment, but a lot of other programs that are designated for seniors.
It is just phenomenal, and you do such a great job, Linda. You have such enthusiasm, and you're just such a great spark for people, and you inspire them. Reed, I was just at a program that Linda heads, and it's training seniors on how to use computers. And as you know, if you've never used a computer before, it can be a little bit scary to try to learn. And Linda teaches people, and it opens up this whole new world for seniors because they can email their
Right.
family members, they can talk to their grandchildren who may
They
live
can
in
look up
another
recipes?
state. Look up recipes.
I do that all the time. That's most of my time is looking up recipes.
And you never cook for me, Reed. I can't believe it.
You come around. I'll tell you what. Right now, I'll share something with you. My computer, my old one, I just got a new one, is in the office right here. And one of our really brilliant minds, this guy's an engineer, his name is Chris Burt. And Chris Burt is currently pulling my files so that I can put them on the new computer because I don't know how to do it.
Well, see, and that's the point, is that a lot of seniors want to have those skills, and Linda does a great job in teaching those. And I have to share a quick story because it's been very encouraging lately. Reed, I've been to many birthday parties for people turning 100 years young or older. And recently I went to see Helen Dole. She was having her 101st birthday. And I went to her home and I brought her some flowers and a balloon and a little cupcake. But anyway, she had her own iPad. And she was using it, and she was emailing, and you know, she was 101 years young, so I think that's just great.
Well, that's a great story. Well, thank you, Cathy, for everything that you've done for us, and you have a great day.
Okay, what do you do? What has she done for you? What do you do?
What does who do, Reed?
You have some sort of an official position, don't you?
Oh, the senior employment.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yes. And we have the computer training for seniors, too, which is the individualized online training with a peer coach. And we've got 3 active sites. We have actually Dunkirk, the Dunkirk Free Library, the Patterson Library in Westfield, and in Jamestown, at the Office for the Aging. We also have a site in Olean at the One Stop. And we have 2 other sites that are suspended right now in Irving and Salamanca because we're waiting to find some new peer coaches.
Okay, well, terrific.
They
This
do a
program
great job.
sharpens and teaches computer skills for seniors, and it also has, you have a job, I think, the last time I heard.
And we have job orders. People are getting jobs left and right. Businesses are calling me. Seniors should call our office.
Okay, what's your number? Just one number now.
In Mayville, for all senior services with the Chautauqua County Office for the Aging, 753-4471. Toll free from Dunkirk, Fredonia, 363-4471.
There you go. She always gives me two numbers, and I always get confused. I can never keep track, you know.
Well, that's why they show it on the screen. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Linda.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you
Linda.
so much. You know, I just have to tell you one more senior story.
Sure.
Recently, I was invited to the birthday party of George Hall from Allegheny, New York. He was turning 105 years old.
Oh, boy.
And I was so excited to go because I've never met anyone 105 before. And so I went in, and this man is phenomenal. I went in, I sat with him, he had his birthday cake in front of him, and he looked at me and he said, Cathy, he said, I still mow my own lawn, I still drive my own car, and I still buy my own groceries.
Good Lord.
And then he said, and I robbed the cradle because that's my girlfriend over there and she's 88. It was just and he has an 88-year-old girlfriend.
Well, you know, God bless seniors that are still really active. I'm right now hounding Fred Crosscut, who has a lot of juice here in Chautauqua County, to get me into the old folks home. They're trying to sell it, too, to balance the budget here in Chautauqua County. Big rumpus. And I'm sure you've noted that our county executive was pushing hard for it, was really very much disappointed. And he's so angry about it, he's not going to run again. I don't know what it is. He suddenly just announced he's not running, which threw the whole county politically into a huge
now you'll have the big race this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we're here with Cathy Young. She's our senator, state senator, and does a great job and advocates very strongly for upstate New York and especially Chautauqua County. Her main office is down in Olean, and call for Kara. She's terrific. She does a great job.
She does do a great job.
Really very active and reactive, you know.
Yep. I have a great staff.
Yeah, you sure do. And I just got had an email. I chatted with your gentleman in down in Albany. Forget it.
Andrew.
Andrew. Yeah, Andy. He does a nice job too.
Yeah, he does. You know, my staff are very dedicated, and they take their jobs very seriously, and we're there to serve the constituents of the 57th District, and they are very devoted to that service, so I am very fortunate.
Yes, you are. You also have a very responsive office in Jamestown.
I do, as a matter of fact, and we get so many constituent calls, and people call our office for all kinds of issues and concerns and questions, and we do everything that we can to try to help.
Yeah, well, I call Jamestown regularly, not on your case, but birds. They have the Audubon Society down there, and the president of it comes up and talks about birds twice a year. Because there are two different kinds of bird runs. There's the winter and then there's the summer, and different birds are different places. And I saw some Arctic terns down at Barcelona.
Really?
And you can't miss an Arctic tern because it looks just like a plain old seagull, but it has a black crest, a crown on it, and it has a bright red beak, and they're the darndest looking things. And they were mixed in pretending that they were gulls, just regular gulls like the rest of them.
We're lucky. We have the Roger Tory Peterson Museum, and we also have the Audubon Society, so we're very, very fortunate here.
Well, the Roger Tory Peterson, big bird guy, originally.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful prints that he's made and studied birds. And one of the things that was my favorite while I was going to college, one summer I took an ornithology course at SUNY Geneseo.
Ornithology, is that a disease? What is that?
It's a bird course.
Oh,
it's
bird
all
course.
The study of birds, of course. I know Reeve's always pulling her legs, but we you know, you imagine a college student getting up every morning at 5:30 to go walk around in the woods and do studies of birds, identification, spotting, with binoculars, but then we would go into the classroom for an hour, and I just loved it. I thought it was great. And we had the Roger Tory Peterson Field Guide to the Birds, and that's what we used when we were out tramping around the woods.
That's terrific. It's a big thing to use. I have a little pocket book, a little tiny one, and then I have that great big one, American Birds. It's a classic old thing with beautiful plates in it. And I always love to watch birds. I've got a little funny bird. I sit in my porch. If I'm real quiet, it comes running up, and that's some kind of a wren, and sits right in front of me and just looks at me. And then it goes away. And I have blue jays are wonderful. You know what blue jays love? Peanuts. Get them some peanuts.
Oh, they do. I didn't know that.
Actually in the case still. And I throw them out, and boy, they come flying in, and the babies come in. They don't quite know what to do. They make a different sound, and the mom runs around picking up the nuts and giving them to the babies. And it's just bird watching is fun, especially owls. Late at night, right? Night owls. We're with Cathy Young, who's been gracious enough to give up her Saturday morning to come up here, be available, be on the phone. And Cathy, as we go through the funding process, we talk about EPIC, really. Now, give us a brief outline of EPIC. It's basically a very, very cut back cost for people who qualify financially, seniors.
Right. There is a financial qualification, and but it was started several years ago because what we saw were there were many people who could not afford their prescription medications, and so the EPIC program was started. When we lost the majority in 2009 and 10 in the Senate, Governor Patterson cut the program way back.
Yeah, so it almost disappeared, as a matter of fact. He tried to blend it in with Medicare and Part D.
Yes, and so, and that's federal, but he said, well, that you have Medicare Part D, so you don't need the EPIC program anymore, and he basically slashed it, which I thought was absolutely the wrong thing to do. And so we've been working very hard over the past couple of years to be able to restore the EPIC program. We've been able to do that. And if anybody needs any information about the EPIC program, you can call me. You can call my office in Jamestown.
Number? Give me a
664-4603.
That's your magic carpet to the inside of Albany, I might add. Cathy, I just got an announcement. This is what it sounded like. We're out of here.
Oh my gosh,
I want to give you 30 seconds. They're all yours, uninterrupted.
Well, I just want to encourage people, if you have any questions or concerns or ideas, please let me know. I get my best ideas from you. Work very hard to be in touch with my district. That's the best part of my job. And so if you have any particular need, just let us know. Call the Jamestown office, and I'd be glad to try to do everything that I can to help. We don't promise that we can always get everything that we want, but we will do everything that we can to try or point you in the right direction.
Cathy Young, our state senator. Cathy, we have one last caller, but unfortunately I'm out of time. I've got to close off here. So I want to thank the very special people who've done wonderful, wonderful things for this program. Chuck Kelsey, Devin Taylor, and hello to his mother, Chris Burt, Randy Burt, Chris Ramaker, Jeff Zook, who's engineering right now, Don Zenz, and John Hamels, and all the other people. Call in again. Will you come back soon?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, we can talk about a lot of other things that are happening. We didn't even get started really today. We ran out of time. They pushed us off the air so fast. Cathy Young, doing the job. May all that is proud and true and noble abide with you. I'm Reed Powers.